Hey guys, let's get more news about Lakers, but first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Gauging the Timberwolves' chances of making the playoffs. The Minnesota Timberwolves find themselves in the heat of the playoff race in the loaded Western Conference. The Wolves are currently sitting in the 7th seed, but anything is possible in the wild, wild West. Golden State is the immediate rival, while the Los Angeles Clippers are just behind them. With 10 games left in the Timberwolves' regular season, they can clinch the 6th seed or more to get an automatic postseason berth. Playing in the Western Conference is one of the toughest tasks in the NBA because you can make a case for 12 teams to be in the playoffs. Of course, the OKC Thunder are miles ahead, but all the teams in the West could compete and force them into a long playoff series. One of those teams is the Timberwolves, a team that could keep in step against any squad. In the race to the Western Conference playoffs, the Timberwolves have the easiest remaining schedule out of the group, ranging from the 2nd to the 8th seed. The Los Angeles Lakers have the toughest remaining schedule, which could take them down from the 4th spot they are currently holding. Their closest rivals, the Warriors, have the 3rd easiest schedule with games against lowly teams such as the Pelicans, Spurs, and the ever-confusing Trail Blazers. If they keep having positive momentum, it will be difficult to usurp them from the 6th seed. Saying the Timberwolves have an easy schedule might be misleading because they are playing against some great teams. They have success against most of their remaining opponents, but they should not be complacent. With players like Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle playing well recently, Minnesota can become the most dangerous team in the West. Minnesota has some tough games soon, including matchups against the Pistons, Bucks, and Grizzlies. They even have a duel with the Denver Nuggets, who they dominated during the playoffs in 2024. Even though they are favored against many of their remaining opponents, that should not mean they should be complacent. They need everyone to play with good energy, like what Donte DiVincenzo keeps showing. The Timberwolves already had that issue in the 3rd week of March when they dropped games to the shorthanded Pacers and the depleted Pelicans. Coach Finch has some work to do with the Timberwolves, as he needs to motivate the team to be more locked in. They are already loaded with talented players. It is up to the team to step up and prove they are worthy of being in the playoffs. The Dallas Mavericks' decision to trade Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers has remained the biggest story in sports since it happened nearly 7 weeks ago. It was such a shocking and idiotic move that even Vanity Fair recently published a piece on the impact it has had. Fans have boycotted the team and given up their fandom, and the team has responded by falling down the Western Conference standings because of injuries. Mark Cuban was quiet about the trade during the immediate aftermath, as he no longer owns a majority share of the team. He sold a large stake to the Adelson family in December 2023, which originally looked like it would work out. Cuban was supposed to stay in charge of basketball operations with his minority share, and the team made it to the NBA Finals a few months later. Cuban seems to be trying to distance himself from the trade as much as possible as time goes by. He recently criticized the Mavericks for the lackluster trade package they got in return for Doncic of Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 Lakers first-round pick. He said they should have at least gotten 4 first-round picks and an additional player or 2. And he has now confirmed that the trade would have never happened if he still had any influence on the team. NBA Insider claims Mavericks broke Luka Doncic's heart by trading him to Lakers. The Dallas Mavericks' decision to trade Luka Doncic before this year's trade deadline remains one of the most talked about stories in the world, not just in the NBA. Dallas fans have been going through the emotions of seeing their favorite player traded, and their teams fall down the Western Conference standings in turn. Since the trade, the Mavericks have gone 8-14 and now sit on the outside looking in for the final play-in tournament. Meanwhile, the Lakers have risen up the standings, now sitting a half game back of 3rd place in the West. If all goes to plan, they should at least be hosting in the first round of the playoffs. That's what happens when Luka Doncic is on your team. But it took some time to come together. Doncic didn't love his new home initially and thought he'd be in Dallas his entire career. ESPN's Tim McMahon credited the Lakers for coming together so quickly when many people thought the Lakers would punt on the season, especially as Doncic dealt with the emotions of being traded. "This is a team that made a major trade at the deadline," McMahon said. "You have to be impressed with how connected they are. Luka is fully engaged with this team." The kid's heart was broken. He had to go through an emotional period of coming out of that, basically getting dumped. You see the joy back in him, and you see it at both ends of the floor. Doncic had just closed on a new house in Dallas when the trade was announced, and you could tell at his introductory press conference that he was stunned by the whole ordeal. Some even said he cried when the trade was announced, but he's recovered, both emotionally and physically, and has the Lakers in a spot to be a threat in the West. Dan Hurley gets trolled for losing in second round of March Madness after rejecting Lakers job. Before the Los Angeles Lakers hired J.J. Redick as their head coach, they pursued University of Connecticut men's basketball head coach Dan Hurley. Hurley, who won back-to-back national titles with UConn in 2023 and 2024, ended up turning down LA's offer to remain at UConn, and Lakers fans haven't forgotten. After UConn lost to the University of Florida in the second round of the NCAA tournament on Sunday, several Lakers fans took to social media to take shots at Hurley. Hurley was even compared to former Lakers head coach Darvin Ham by one user. UConn was tied at the half and held a lead in the second half against the heavily favored Gators, but it was unable to close the game out. In fact, UConn led 61-59 with under 3 minutes to play, but a critical run by the Gators, led by star guard Walter Clayton Jr., gave Florida a big enough lead. The Huskies were never able to erase that deficit. Hurley has led UConn to the NCAA tournament in 5 straight seasons, but the Huskies have failed to make it any deeper than the second round in 3 of those seasons. Now that star players like Donovan Clingan and Stephon Castle are no longer with the program, UConn may have a harder time reaching another national title game. As for the Lakers, they have to be happy that they landed Redick as their head coach. The former NBA sharpshooter has led the Lakers to a 43-27 mark so far this season, and they currently hold the number 4 seed in the Western Conference. After falling into the play-in tournament in the Western Conference in each of the last 2 seasons, the Lakers are poised to avoid that in the 2024-25 season with Redick at the helm. Lakers fans may want to see Hurley and his team fail, but ultimately, things appear to have worked out for both Hurley and LA. The Lakers are in contention with Luka Doncic and LeBron James leading the way, and Hurley gets to remain the face of the UConn program, even if his team fell short this season. And you, fan? What do you think about Dan Hurley's situation? Write to us in the comments.